Welcome to Daily English Stories. Every story hides a world. Some inspire, some haunt, some stay forever. Chapter 1. The Princess of Stardelight. In the heart of a glittering city known as Stardelight, where buildings gleamed like diamonds and cars whispered along golden boulevards, lived a girl whose name echoed through salons, headlines, and high-end boutiques. Isabella Crane. She wasn't just rich. She was Stardelight's royalty without a crown. Born into the powerful Crane family, owners of luxury hotels and half the skyline, Isabella had never known a day without silk sheets, private chefs, and a dozen people ready to fulfill her smallest desire. Her days began with sunlight filtered through imported satin curtains. A soft "Good morning, Miss Crane," from her butler as breakfast, low-carb, gold-dusted, was placed gently by her bedside. Stylists hovered, choosing her outfits. Assistants updated her on likes, comments, and invitations. Her phone buzzed endlessly with admiration and envy. And Isabella? She wore it all like a queen wears her jewels, not with gratitude, but with expectation. She walked into boutiques expecting everything to stop. And it usually did. Shopkeepers would rush, trembling hands offering the latest designer items. Photographers would beg for a shot, fans stammering her name. Bella, Bella! She loved the power, the stares, the soft gasps when she walked into a room. But it wasn't just her money. Isabella was stunning. Glossy black hair, emerald eyes that sparkled like mischief, and a figure sculpted by private trainers in careful indulgence. She could make anyone melt, and she knew it. Her smile was a weapon, and her charm, well, it was a game. She used it to get what she wanted, always. If someone didn't respond to her flirting, she'd laugh and call them boring. If someone dared to criticize her, she'd raise an eyebrow and walk away, as if insult itself was beneath her. To her, kindness meant weakness. Humility was for those who hadn't made it. Her friends, mostly faces behind filters, models, influencers, heiresses. They talked about yachts, trends, followers, and what charity they could post about, not attend, just post to seem aware. Every night there was a party, and every party Isabella shined. Sequins, champagne, cell phones recording her every dance move. But when the lights dimmed, when the makeup came off, and she was left alone in her marble room, surrounded by gifts and gowns, she felt something she didn't know how to name. She would scroll endlessly through her own photos, stare at the ceiling, and sigh. Not because she was tired, not because she was sad, but because she felt empty. Her world was full of noise, sparkle, and applause. But her soul, it was silent. She didn't understand it. She had everything money could buy. And yet, there was a hollowness inside her, a soft ache, a whisper, like something was missing, something real. But in Stardelight, real wasn't easy to find. Chapter 2. The Boy Who Didn't Look. Twice. The boutique was one of the most exclusive in Stardelight. Gold-trimmed windows, crystal chandeliers, attendants who bowed with rehearsed perfection. Isabella was a regular. Everyone there knew her preferences. Lavender-scented candles, silk-only fabrics, and compliments served with every purchase. That day, though, something changed. A new face stood behind the counter. A boy, maybe 20 or 21. Dark hair, rolled-up sleeves, a quiet presence. He wasn't dressed in the usual pomp of the place. No shiny tie, no fake smile. He looked normal, calm, even a little shy. Isabella's heels clicked louder than usual as she approached, expecting the usual sparkle in the eyes of someone who recognized her. But he barely glanced up. "Hello," she said, a little too brightly. "Hi," he replied, politely but without awe. He returned to folding clothes, not even asking if she needed help. She blinked. Was he serious? She walked the aisle slowly, brushing her fingers along gowns, glancing back to see if he watched. He didn't. When she selected an emerald green dress and brought it to the counter, he took it from her hands with a small nod. "This one's beautiful. Classic cut. Matches my eyes," she added with a practiced smile. "Maybe," he said, shrugging lightly. "But it's the kind of dress that makes the room quieter when someone walks in. Has nothing to do with the eyes." It wasn't a compliment, not really. It was just an observation. She wasn't sure what to say. "Have we met before?" she finally asked. He shook his head. "I don't think so. I'm Lucas." She waited. No follow-up. No, "You're Isabella, right?" No attempt to flatter her. Just Lucas. Just normal. And somehow, that unsettled her more than the fake praise ever had. The next few days, she found excuses to return. Forgetting her sunglasses, asking about a new perfume, pretending to need a gift for a friend she didn't have. Lucas always helped her. Kindly, briefly, always with that same calm, unreadable manner. One afternoon, she did something unthinkable. She invited him. "My birthday party," she said, scribbling the address on a gold-foiled card. "You should come. It'll be interesting." Lucas looked at the card, then at her. "Thanks," he said with a smile. "I'll try." She spent hours that night imagining how he'd arrive. Awkward, overwhelmed, finally seeing her in her true element. But when the night came, and her house glittered with lights, laughter, and champagne fountains, Lucas arrived quietly, and not alone. His hand was wrapped in someone else's. Sophie. She wasn't a model. She wasn't rich. She wore a simple dress and had flowers in her hair. But the way Lucas looked at her, it was like she was the whole room. They didn't pose for pictures. They didn't gush. They just existed together, comfortably, completely. Isabella watched from across the room, champagne untouched. No one had ever looked at her like that. Not with awe, not with hunger, but with understanding, with peace. Sophie leaned into Lucas's shoulder, laughing at something he whispered. And Isabella felt something strange bloom in her chest. Something soft and unfamiliar. Was it envy? Not of the dress, not of the boy, but of the ease, the quiet, the realness. She had gold chandeliers and diamond bracelets, but they had something else. Something she didn't know how to name. And as the music swelled and guests danced in filtered lights, Isabella stood alone by the balcony, gripping the railing, wondering why the stars suddenly felt so far away. Chapter 3. Becoming Isabella. The morning after the party felt different. The mirror in Isabella's room reflected the same flawless face, the same cascading green hair, the same sparkle in her eyes. But something had shifted. It wasn't in the makeup she wore or the silk robe draped over her shoulders. It was something deeper, something quieter. She sat at her vanity for a long time, mascara wand in hand, frozen. The laughter from the night before still echoed faintly in her ears, but not her own. It was Sophie's laugh, warm, genuine, unfiltered. And Lucas, smiling at her with ease, not forced charm, not calculated compliments. Real joy. Isabella had never realized how exhausting it was to be admired but never truly seen. For the first time in her life, Isabella left the house without a designer bag, without heels, without calling the paparazzi beforehand. She walked through Star Delight's old district, the part she'd only ever passed in a limousine. And when she saw a small community center with a crooked sign reading "Hot Meals and Hope," she didn't think. She walked in. The air smelled of soup and old wood. Children laughed in the back room. A woman in a worn apron looked up and smiled. "Are you here to help?" she asked. Isabella nodded. Her voice trembled slightly. Yes. That day she chopped vegetables until her manicured fingers ached. She wiped tables, tied little shoes, and listened to stories that didn't end with expensive yachts or magazine covers. No one asked for selfies. No one complimented her dress. And yet, for the first time, she felt real. She kept returning, day after day. Her old friends noticed her absence at brunches and spa openings. They texted, then stopped. They didn't understand. That world, once so magnetic, now felt shallow. Isabella didn't miss it. At the community center, she met Mia, a 10-year-old girl who had lost her parents. Mia loved painting, hated peas, and dreamed of being a teacher. They painted together on Saturdays, green hair for both of them. Like magic, Mia would say. And Isabella, smiling, believed her. Sophie came one evening, bringing donated books. They paused when they saw each other, two women who once stood on opposite ends of envy. But the awkwardness melted as Sophie extended a hand. "You've changed," she said softly. "I'm trying," Isabella replied. From then on, they worked together. No rivalry, just purpose. Lucas came by sometimes, always polite, always kind. But he was Sophie's, and Isabella no longer minded. She didn't want his affection anymore. She wanted his peace. Months passed. Star Delight's tabloids tried to find scandal in her silence. But there were no wild parties, no new lovers, only headlines like "Heiress turns humanitarian" and "Isabella Wallin gives away fortune to build art school." She never responded. She didn't need to explain. One winter evening, as snow fell gently on Star Delight, Isabella stood outside the community center. Mia tugged her sleeve. "You're smiling different," she said. "Like, for real?" Isabella laughed. "That's because it is." Inside, on a bulletin board, a newspaper clipping hung with the title, "The Girl with Green Hair Inspires a City." People whispered stories about her, how she turned money into meaning, how she chose kindness over glitter, how she became the heartbeat of a place that had only known surface beauty. She no longer walked to be seen, but to see, no longer spoke to impress, but to listen, no longer gave to gain, but to heal. And so, Isabella Wallin, the spoiled girl with everything, became the woman with something far greater: heart